Hi, this is Andrew again. I serve as one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. In a decision that has sent shockwaves through Minnesota's legal and political landscape, Hennepin County Judge Sarah West recently overturned a unanimous jury verdict convicting Abdi Fattah Abdulkader Yusuf, a Somali immigrant, of orchestrating a massive $7.2 million Medicaid fraud scheme. The ruling, which has ignited a firestorm of controversy, raises profound questions about the integrity of the judicial system, the role of juries, and the potential influence of ideological biases in the courtroom. This article will delve into the specifics of the case, examine Judge West's reasoning, explore the broader context of Medicaid fraud in Minnesota, and analyze the implications of this stunning reversal. So what was the case against Abdi Fattah Yusuf? Abdi Fattah Yusuf and his wife, Lul Ahmed, stood trial in Hennepin County for their alleged involvement in a sophisticated scheme to defraud Minnesota's Medicaid program. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing how Yusuf's home health company, Promise Health, operated out of a shared mailbox on Minneapolis's Central Avenue, an address that housed numerous other dubious home health companies. This setup immediately raised red flags about the legitimacy of the operation. The evidence against Yusuf was substantial and multifaceted. Prosecutors accused him of submitting fraudulent claims to Minnesota's Medicaid program for personal care assistant, PCA, services that were never provided, a practice commonly referred to as phantom billing. Additionally, they alleged he overbilled for legitimate services, forged documentation to inflate reimbursements, and doled out kickbacks to complicit clients to ensure their participation in the scheme. The operation was not merely a case of minor overbilling. It was a systemic effort to siphon millions in taxpayer dollars intended for the state's most vulnerable populations, the elderly and disabled residents requiring personal care services. The fruits of this alleged fraud were not subtle. Court documents revealed that Yusuf and his wife spent tens of thousands of dollars on luxury items, including high-end cars and designer apparel. This lavish lifestyle, funded by Medicaid dollars, stood in stark contrast to the modest living conditions of many of the purported clients whose names were used to justify the fraudulent claims. The prosecution painted a picture of unmitigated greed, with Yusuf treating the Medicaid system as his personal piggy bank. The jury, after hearing all the evidence, deliberated for approximately 4 hours before returning a unanimous guilty verdict on 6 counts of aiding and abetting theft by swindle. The speed and unanimity of the decision underscored the strength of the prosecution's case and the apparent obviousness of Yusuf's guilt. Jurors later expressed their shock and disbelief at the judge's subsequent decision to overturn their verdict, with one juror telling reporters he believed the evidence demonstrated obvious guilt. So what was the ground for Judge Sarah West's stunning reversal? Despite the jury's clear verdict, Judge Sarah West, in a move that has been described as stunning and shocking, tossed out the conviction and entered a judgment of acquittal. Her reasoning, as outlined in her written opinion, centered on 2 primary arguments: that the prosecution's case relied too heavily on circumstantial evidence, and that they failed to exclude other reasonable inferences that could point to Yusuf's innocence. Judge West acknowledged that she was troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetuated at Promise Health. Yet she maintained that the state had not met its burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, . This distinction is crucial. While recognizing the existence of fraud, she concluded that the prosecution had not adequately established Yusuf's personal responsibility for it. This reasoning has been widely criticized as semantic gymnastics, with detractors arguing that it effectively creates a standard of proof so high that it would be nearly impossible to convict in complex white-collar crime cases where direct evidence is often scarce. Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who was not affiliated with the case but reviewed Judge West's decision, explained her rationale. It's reversing or overturning a jury's verdict. He noted that Judge West believed the state hadn't ruled out other reasonable inferences regarding the billing irregularities. This interpretation of reasonable inferences has become a focal point of criticism, with many legal observers arguing that it stretches the concept beyond its intended limits. The impact of Judge West's ruling extends far beyond this single case. As noted in multiple reports, her decision could now open the door for other fraud convictions in Minnesota to be overturned. This potential domino effect has sent ripples of concern through law enforcement and prosecutorial circles, potentially undermining years of work to combat Medicaid fraud in the state. What has been the broader context of Medicaid fraud in Minnesota's Somali community? To fully understand the gravity of Judge West's decision, it is essential to recognize the broader context of Medicaid fraud in Minnesota, particularly as it relates to the state's large Somali American community. Minnesota has been wrestling with an escalating tide of fraud that has touched Medicaid, housing programs, and emergency food aid. While the Somali community contributes vibrantly to Minnesota's cultural and economic landscape, it has also been disproportionately represented in recent fraud cases. The scale of this problem is staggering. Federal and state probes have uncovered schemes siphoning hundreds of millions from various welfare programs, with some funds allegedly routed to Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group in Somalia. The Feeding Our Future scandal alone involved $250 million in federal child nutrition funds stolen through fake meal claims and inflated attendance records. This pattern of fraud has not only drained taxpayer resources, but has also raised national security concerns. The Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services, HSS, program, intended to help vulnerable individuals with secure housing, has been particularly vulnerable to exploitation. Created in 2020 with an estimated annual cost of $2.6 million, the program's costs have ballooned to $61 million in the first half of 2025 alone, putting it on track for a new record. This explosive growth, coupled with the program's low barriers to entry and minimal requirements for reimbursement, created an environment ripe for exploitation. U.S. Attorney Andy Thompson, commenting on the depth of the problem, stated, "What we see are schemes stacked upon schemes, draining resources meant for those in need. It feels never-ending. I have spent my career as a fraud prosecutor, and the depth of the fraud in Minnesota takes my breath away." This assessment underscores the systemic nature of the issue and the challenges faced by law enforcement in combating it. What has been Judge Sarah West's background and previous rulings in cases before her? The controversy surrounding Judge West's decision has inevitably led to scrutiny of her background and previous rulings. Appointed by former Democratic Governor Mark Dayton, West has a professional history that includes work as a public defender and as a transaction manager at Barclays. This combination of defense-oriented experience and commercial finance background has raised questions among critics about her judicial philosophy. According to the Minnesota Judicial Branch website, West was elected in 2020, and her current term expires in January 2027. Her tenure on the bench has been marked by decisions that some conservatives view as evidence of judicial activism. Notably, Breitbart News reported that in 2016, a district court judge in Minnesota, though not explicitly identified as West, ruled that transgender people on Medicaid have the right to gender reassignment surgery, lifting a decade-long statewide ban on such procedures . While this ruling is unrelated to the Yusuf case, it contributes to a broader narrative about judicial philosophy in Minnesota's courts. Critics have pointed to West's background as a public defender as potentially influencing her rulings in criminal cases. The argument is that her defense-oriented experience might make her more inclined to scrutinize prosecution evidence rigorously, even to the point of overriding jury verdicts. This perspective, while speculative, speaks to broader concerns about the role of judicial philosophy in decision-making. What has been the reaction of jurors, prosecutors, and the public on Judge Sarah West's decision? The reaction to Judge West's decision has been swift and overwhelmingly negative, particularly from those directly involved in the case. Jurors expressed shock and disbelief at the reversal of their verdict. Jury foreman Ben Walfert said he was shocked by the decision, while another juror described the evidence as demonstrating obvious guilt. These responses highlight the disconnect between the jury's assessment of the evidence and Judge West's interpretation. The Minnesota Attorney General's office has filed an appeal seeking to reinstate the convictions. The appeal will move to the Minnesota Court of Appeals, where judges will review the record and determine whether the trial court appropriately applied the legal standards governing the reversal of jury verdicts. This appellate review will be crucial in determining whether Judge West's reasoning withstands judicial scrutiny. Public reaction has been equally intense, with many commentators decrying the decision as an example of judicial overreach and ideological bias. Social media erupted with criticism, with users expressing frustration and anger over the ruling. Some commentators went so far as to suggest that the decision was influenced by DI concerns or sympathy for Somali defendants, though no direct evidence supports these claims. The political fallout has been significant as well. In response to the broader allegations of fraud involving Somali immigrants, President Donald Trump announced he would end temporary protected status for Somalis in Minneapolis. This federal response underscores the national implications of local fraud cases and the political sensitivities surrounding them. We are thankful that President Trump has stepped in to take action against the high amount of fraud that is originating from the Minneapolis Somali community. We hope this video has helped you better understand the current conditions in Minnesota when it comes from both state officials and local judges. If the electorate continues to vote for these radicals, Minnesota will continue to spiral down. I only hope the electorate will wake up and take action during the next election cycle. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Are you looking for a limitless supply of insightful reads to expand your mind and transform your life? Look no further than Nehemiah Reset's ebook library, where knowledge meets inspiration at nehemiahreset.org/ebook. Go there today to discover a wealth of valuable resources to help you on your personal and professional journey to build a biblical worldview. Learn more about the Bible and how culture is impacting your worldview. Again, that the ebook library is located at nehemiahreset.org/ebook. Hope to see you soon. My name is Mark. I am one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. The prior video was sponsored by Nehemiah Reset, a 501c3. Our mission is to assist Christians in developing a biblical worldview as it pertains to relevant cultural and biblical issues. We seek to inform Christ's followers, equip them, and mobilize them into action to vote for their biblical values and to actively engage in our culture. We are also committed to help Christians and non-believers to develop a better biblical view. Nehemiah Reset produces videos and ebooks to assist members of the church in developing a biblical worldview when it comes to cultural issues. We produce videos on key topics like public school indoctrination, the woke agenda, sex education, equity and inclusion, climate change, immigration, religious freedom, and much, much more. To learn more about Nehemiah Reset or to watch our latest videos, go to our website at nehemiahreset.org or our rumble.com channel. We produce 2 to 3 videos every week. To get a weekly list of our latest videos, sign up for our weekly newsletter by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and subscribe. You can support our website by liking our videos, subscribing to our channels, or helping us reach more people through tax-exempt donations. Thanks for your help in growing God's kingdom and bringing more people to Christ. Thank you for your support and help. Come back again soon. Have a great day.